Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, Jon Jordan. So a couple of interesting articles have come out of this company, Flipside Crypto, who are doing some kind of chain analytics, which is, I'm not terribly sure about their numbers and I'm not terribly sure about how they presented them, but I think the core of what they're trying to do is interesting. So they've looked at, see the headlines here, these top crypto games made millions in their first year. Well, that's a bit of a typical headline. It's like, yeah, what does that mean? But it is interesting. What they're trying to actually say is that they're looking at how much these games have generated and how much has been how it's been split between the developer and the users. Because one of the key things about blockchains and what we I guess call player-led economies is at its most fundamental level, a decentralized game. The developer actually might not make much money at all. It may make some money selling things off to begin with, or doing kind of special sales, but really over time, the trading of assets, certainly NFT assets, would happen between players, and the vast majority of the revenue would flow between players. And the developer might take a small kind of percentage off of every transaction. But generally, if I sell something for $100, then I should probably be getting like 98% of it, probably. First thing here, so we look at CryptoKitties. I guess that's not really a game, but by far and away the longest. Actually, not the longest serving kind of blockchain project, because I guess there's CryptoPunks as well. But anyway, the best known probably. CryptoKitties, well, actually, it's Dapper Labs of the company, and they reckon they made 6.9 million in the first year, and players earned 20 million through auctions. So we have to remember this is November 2017. So ETH price here is peaking at $1,000 if for a short period of time. So these comparisons will be very different if you're looking at the ETH totals, because potentially you've got a factor of one to 5 in terms of like the dollar price of ETH. So that doesn't kind of make a lot of sense to begin with, really. Gods Unchained, again, Gods Unchained is the game, not the developer. I mean, these are small pedantic points, but Immutable is the developer, made 4.2 million in their first year, and players have since earned 237,000. They do point out here that so this is difficult in terms of the first year, because basically what the first year happened pretty much was what they're measuring is Gods Unchained. There were a whole bunch of cards. They had a Genesis set of cards that sold out over a period of a year, and that's where that's coming from. And this is kind of a much shorter period of time and kind of happened post this. So Immutable sold the cards, and then players had since gone on to trade them. So these are not similar time periods. And then Crypto Heroes, again, Double Jump. Tokyo is the developer, and 1.5 million in the first year, and then players have earned 118,000 selling assets. I mean, another thing here to point out is My Crypto Heroes has a few different things going on here. So it has NFTs that people buy, including in that is NFT, which is land. So they have had land sales that have sold a lot, but when people buy land, they tend to stick with it, not flip it. Whereas the characters are much more about you buy low end characters, level them up, and then you can sell them for more. So there's different dynamics going on in here. Also, people are spending a tenth of an ETH a month to get kind of effectively to have a monthly subscription, which I guess is being counted in here as well. So that inflates, all those things inflate that value. But I do think this kind of stuff is kind of interesting to try and think about. So here's the second article, and it's based off the same research. So they're looking to see how much can you earn playing crypto games. The answer is not much. But what they've tried to do in these correct. So they looked at gross earnings. That's what they've done. In each game, most players spent more than they earned, and that is they lost money. Yeah, I haven't got a problem with that. I mean, what's interesting is, I think with blockchain games is you can spend $100 and you maybe get $75 back. I mean, that's what's different. So obviously, if you think about how kind of finance works, not everyone can play a game, and not everyone can buy an asset and then sell it on and make money. Clearly, if you think of a how flows work, if I spend $100 and then sell something for $110, I've made $10. But has the person who bought that asset for $110 well, they've seemingly lost money because obviously they haven't sold it. So this is a slightly kind of, I don't know, misthought or misleading sort of analysis, because you can only really run this analysis. Obviously, you can run it for a period of a year, but you only really run it across the lifetime of a game, which at some point has ended, to see how everyone kind of cashed out. So, actually, at any one point, there will be, loads of dollars of value that are being held on accounts that could then be sold on, and that value will be more or less depending on, is the game doing well or is the game not doing well. So this is kind of at any point, I would imagine, unless a game is dying, most players will have spent more, but a lot of players will have come in and not earned anything at all. So you have to break that down. So if I spent $110 buying an asset and I've just started playing the game, have I lost money? Yes, because I'm playing the game. But have I lost money as a financial incentive? No, I haven't. Again, we have a problem with CryptoKitties. So CryptoKitties launches in November 2017 when the ETH price, or all crypto prices, are in their all-time highs, and CryptoKitties comes along. Everyone's got loads of cryptocurrency because Bitcoin and ETH are spiking to the all-time highs. Everyone jumps into CryptoKitties. Everyone's buying CryptoKitties, and there's lots of trading going on because there's this idea, that these are valuable. Things just started out. No one really understands it. And some people, if they get in early enough, there is a lot of flipping going on, particularly of like Gen Zeros, or the first breeding up the first kind of fancies and all that sort of stuff. I mean, this is kind of interesting. So you have medium earnings and average earnings. So there's different sorts of earnings. And this is the other thing, is you have to look across, I guess you have to look across the player base and see kind of probably some sort of normalish curve, and see, where, there'll be a very small amount of people who've gamed the system very well and get out at the right time. They're the ones who are going to make the money, and they're the ones who are going to put in the big money probably. Most people, don't really care very much. So you're comparing something here, which is kind of changes a lot over time. So if you looked at this now, because the ETH price is totally different and the dynamic around CryptoKitties is totally different, these medium and average earnings are going to change massively from 2017, 2018 to 2019, 2020. So just sticking a figure on here and saying it's the average, they thought a little bit about medium and average, but over time this changes massively. So actually what you need to do is have like probably a monthly graph and really break down the granularity of what's going on. Similar thing here for My Crypto Heroes. So what's interesting is they've looked at one particular wallet. And again, you can kind of do that sort of stuff. That's kind of interesting. Most players will have multiple wallets, for one thing. So you're not picking out, it's not a user, it's a wallet. And so you can't really see necessarily, unless you're doing, you need to look at kind of what's feeding in and out of a wallet, because someone might have a wallet where stuff gets transferred in and then they sell it on that way. So you might have like a sale wallet and other wallets are feeding into it. So this might not be exactly, that might be, totally incorrect. What's interesting, I guess, is the medium and average, again, are different. So My Crypto Heroes did start selling itself as a play-to-earn game. It was quite difficult, and again, it's very Japanese. And again, this over time, it's not been alive for as long as CryptoKitties, but there's been quite a large variation of what's going on there. At the moment, this game is kind of in, maybe not terminal decline, but it's in a very different kind of phase. And the price of all the characters has dropped at least 50%. So again, this is not particularly helpful. And Gods Unchained. The one thing with Gods Unchained, and actually with some of these other ones as well, is I'm not quite sure, because they haven't given any details of their chain analysis. But obviously you can often buy and sell within the games. So CryptoKitties, you can buy and sell in the game. NFTs, My Crypto Heroes is the same thing. But you can also do it on things like OpenSea. So OpenSea is a big trading platform where people are generally not playing games but are speculating on the value of assets and trying to flip them. So unless you're taking the flows of both, then I think you're not getting the full picture. Gods Unchained has a similar thing where you can buy and sell on OpenSea, but also it has its own kind of inbuilt platform. So again, you have to look at those two separate things. I guess what is interesting here is we can see for over time. So CryptoKitties, the value, the dollar value seems very high, but this was when the ETH price was high. My Crypto Heroes was actually, the average value was probably higher because the value of ETH was much smaller here. And then kind of Gods Unchained, you're selling individual cards, and there's a lot of cards. I think 6 million cards. So people might be buying very low level cards, because what you can also do with this, with Gods Unchained, is you can buy the cards and then burn them to upgrade the card. If I have, I can't remember exactly how the ratio goes, but if I have like 5 cards the same, I can burn 4 of those cards on one, basically use them and level up that other card. So there's different sort of mechanics going on here, where there is kind of flipping going on, but it's also a low level of, I'm going to buy low level cards which are useful to me to upgrade some of the kind of cards I want to use in the game. So with all these things, I think with blockchain games in particular, it's easy to pull out some numbers, but it's very, very easy to fall into traps of thinking about putting a dollar value on something, where it's in ETH, people valuing stuff in ETH or in dollars, especially over time, because we've had such volatility over the last years. And also thinking about how these games actually work. So is there a speculative element to all these games? Absolutely. Is there also some just gameplay elements to the blockchain in all these games? Certainly in Gods Unchained, probably not in the other two. But all that will impact these sort of things. And this sort of thing, the average CryptoKitties player earned $1,300. I mean, that's meaningless. I mean, these comparisons are totally meaningless. Certainly in terms of the figures. If you're saying, if you said, I mean, much more interesting to say now, if you're going to play a game now, which would be the best one of these 3 games to earn money from? And this is kind of interesting, I suppose, in the sense that there's kind of saying what percentage of players made money. But again, it falls a little bit into the fact of how many people have finished their experience with the game, but you basically do a lifetime value calculation on how much they've spent, and they're not going to do any more trading anymore. So this is the percentage of players profiting, but that's different to what's the percentage of any new player going into a game and making money off it. In that case, it's difficult to tell with all these games at the moment, because they're all in different phases. So I'm probably coming across kind of too negative. And they do kind of point. The only thing is, these people obviously know what they're doing, in the sense that they point things out. Like in 2017, the median price of a CryptoKitty was $25, and now it's $2.71. But obviously, this is partly to do with the ETH price and partly to do with what's going on in the game. So that they do seem to understand there is this thing about time, but these one-off time-based graphs are meaningless. You have to have the graphs over time, and I think that's the frustration, I guess, I have with this analysis, and why I'm going on and on about it, is that I think this is good stuff in the sense of the high-level thing is, let's think about all this data we've got from blockchain, and think how we can apply that to in a way that we could never do in any other game that wasn't using a blockchain. So this is like novel stuff, but to do it in such a cack-handed way, where pretty much all the conclusions you come up with, all the numbers you come up with, are absolute rubbish, and most of the conclusions you come up with are also rubbish, then just makes me very frustrated, and that's why I'm very frustrated. So anyway, I mean, do check it out, Flipside Crypto, and I'll put the links in the show notes. But if you're interested in blockchain games and random people blowing off steam about this sort of stuff, please do subscribe to the channel. I do spend a lot of time playing blockchain games and thinking about them, and I do think they are super important to the future of the games industry, which is why I spend all this time doing it. And if you're interested as well, please do subscribe to the channel. But thanks for watching this one, and hope to see you again soon.